A lot of people feel like if you're a real writer, you feel like you want to write all the time. And if you don't, well, then you're not a real writer. And the truth is just so opposite of that. There are so many days that I wake up and I'm like, I just cannot hack it. I just do not want to write. I don't have it in me today. And nevertheless, because writing is my job, I sit down and I do it anyway. I want to give you 7 step-by-step actions that will help you get motivation to write 5 times a week, no matter what your schedule is, what kind of battles you're facing, and how much you want to write. Obstacles that stop people from writing. There are 3 main ones. The first is perfectionism. So I struggle with this a lot with my novel. I sit down and I'm like, oh, it's not perfect though. Like, I know what good writing for a novel is, and I know this isn't it. So I just don't want to write it at all. And it is so painful to sit down and force myself to write writing that I know isn't as good as my favorite authors. That's hard to overcome. The second is fear of failure. This is especially true for more blogging type things where you're afraid to write because you're afraid that like nobody will read it, or you'll get rejected from that publication. Rejected? Or you'll get a nasty comment. That fear of failure holds a lot of people back and makes it difficult to find that motivation. And the third is a simple lack of motivation. You know, when you're low energy, you've got other stuff going on in your life, and you're like, well, I could write a blog, or I could sit down and watch The White Lotus. Now, I want to be clear. I get some people who come to me and they're like, Zuli, I'm working 80 hours a week. I have 3 triplet babies just born yesterday. I just got out of the hospital. I'm really struggling to find motivation to write. And I'm like, stop, you should not be writing right now. You sound exhausted, you are burnt out, you need to go recover. Don't focus on writing right now. Come back when you genuinely and honestly can tell yourself that you can find the dedication, you're just lacking the motivation. Okay, so to those 80-hour-a-week workers, this video is not for you. Go relax, please. But if you really want to dedicate yourself to writing a blog, these 7 steps will guide you through my exact method for creating a routine that works, something that actually gets you to sit down and write 5 days a week. The main challenge with growing your blogging empire is consistency. Number 1, first, I want you to decide on a goal. So this can be either a word count or a timer, okay? So a word count means I want to go for, 1,000 words a day, or a timer would be I want to write for half an hour a day. So if you're struggling with the first 2 obstacles, perfectionism or fear of failure, I find the word count is the best tool because it forces you to get really comfortable writing crap. If you're more just like, you have the time and you just can't bring yourself to sit down and write, I find a timer works better. If you're that person, you go for word count, I just find you end up writing crap because whatever, it doesn't matter. And that's not really gonna improve your goal of growing your blogging empire. Number 2, what's realistic? Have a solid look at your schedule and at your goals, and think about what it would take to accomplish those goals with the current time you have. Some people really can only manage 10 minutes a day. That is definitely better than nothing. Now go with that and increase it by 5 or 10%. For example, if you think that you can write 1,000 words a day, try to aim for 1,050. This helps you actually meet your goals because trust me, things always take longer than you think they do. It's still achievable, but you'll accomplish more over time. Number 3, set a routine. It's so easy to find excuses not to do stuff. What you should do to make it harder to take those reasons is set a routine. So decide now. Is this going to be a morning thing? Is it going to be an evening thing after everybody else has gone to bed? Now stick with that and do that 5 days in a row. Then do it 2 weeks in a row. Then do it a month in a row. And then you have a consistent schedule. The more consistent you are, the easier it'll be to do it, and the harder it is to find excuses to skip it because you did it yesterday, you did it the day before, today's no different. Number 4, leave distractions behind. Distractions come in 2 forms, the internet and well-meaning individuals who live in your home. For example, my cats are huge distractions for me. I'm looking at one right now. So for the internet, when I'm writing my blogs, I often need the internet open for research, so I don't shut off the internet. But when I'm writing my novel, especially because it's so hard for me to write my book, I really struggle with synonyms. So I'll be writing a word and I'm like, oh, I know this word isn't quite right. I know there's something better out there. What word should I pick instead? I'm gonna go to thesaurus.com. And then I go to thesaurus.com, and then I go to twitter.com, and then I go to facebook.com, and it just spirals wildly. So I turn my Wi-Fi off for my book writing sessions. What I do instead is I leave myself a reminder. I'm like, okay, once I've got my 1,000 word count, I can come back and fix that pesky word. In terms of individuals in the house, my cats try to distract me all the time. And truthfully, sometimes I have to close the door on them. The more often you do this at your set time that you set for yourself, the fewer distractions there will be. Number 5, reward yourself, okay? Think of your writing persona as a kindergartner. Okay, be very gentle with him or her or them. Just remember, like, we are very simple creatures. Sometimes a simple reward mechanism is all you need to find that extra motivation. I made a little like test tube in my notebook. I drew it out. And I have a goal, 50,000 words. And every time I get closer to that goal, I fill in a little bit. I color it in like a kindergartner. I love it. That works so well for me. Things I've done that worked well for me in the past include also assigning a little gold star on days on my calendar when I write on those days. I've also added like $1 to a piggy bank, and then at the end of the month, I have $20. I go get myself like a really nice cake or something like that. Sometimes you just need one extra reason to write, and sometimes that can be a gold star sticker. There's no shame in that. Try to find another little motivation, another reason to say yes. Number 6, give yourself permission to try new things. If you're trying something and it's not working and you just can't fill the word count, or the minutes are ticking by and you're not doing a single thing, look for a different thing to write that might be a little bit more exciting. In a book, maybe go ahead and skip a couple scenes and write that scene you're dying to write. If you're in a blog and you never write, psychological self-help, go ahead, write one. What's the worst that can happen? This is an exciting time. You're trying to just find that spark again, something that gets you excited to be writing. Sometimes, honestly, it's not the current stuff that you're working on. That's okay to admit, and just get the excitement back into your system with a new, fresh type of writing. And number 7, set an arbitrary / not arbitrary deadline on yourself. So remember when we set our goal at the very first step, you also wanted to set out what you wanted to accomplish over time. So for example, you might want to have written a book in a year. You might have wanted to publish 100 blog posts in a year. You might want to have your very first freelance client in a year. Those are all totally valid goals. But now you want to set an arbitrary deadline. So when I want to force myself to get back into running shape, what I do is I look ahead to the races in my area and I schedule myself in for like a race 6 months into the future. And this is a little harsh, but it works really well, because every morning when I wake up and I think about whether or not to put on my running shoes, I'm like, how painful is it going to be running that half marathon if I haven't run at all before then? And I think it's probably going to be pretty painful and not a lot of fun. So it gives me a reason to actually get my sports bra on and get out the door running. Writing is the same. You can either set an arbitrary deadline of your own, like you want to write X words in a month, or you want to have created X number of blog posts in a year. This is just another reason to say yes to writing on that day instead of, I don't really feel like it. You can also do something like a Dirty 30 challenge where you just write 30 blog posts in 30 days. You can sign up for like a literary submission with a deadline. Like, that's a non-arbitrary deadline. That's a real deadline that you have to write in order to submit to. That kind of stuff works really well to motivate yourself and just find a reason to write. Growing a blogging empire is hard. It means putting in the word work and actually writing content. And it means putting out content that maybe you're not super proud of at the start. You get comfortable with hitting that publish button. You get comfortable with looking at your old work and seeing what you can improve on. You get comfortable with rejection and failure and struggling through low motivation times and everything else that's ugly and comes with writing. It's all part of the journey of growing your blogging empire. The only way to do it is to sit down and write. Hopefully this video helped you find that motivation, helped you create a plan to actually get down and write 5 days a week. And yeah, I look forward to hearing your results. What did you think? Do you think these will help you? Are there any I left out? Let me know in the comments. All right, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone. So I want to give you 7 step-by-step. I want to give you 7 step-by-step guide 5 times a day